We hear that newborn babies are more likely to be boys than girls. Is this true? A random sample of 25,468 firstborn children included 13,173 boys. Boys do make up more than half of the sample, but of course we don't expect a perfect 50-50 split in a random sample. To what population can the results of this study be generalized? All children or all firstborn children? Justify your answer. So, the results of this study can only be generalized to firstborn children because that is the group that we are sampling from, right? That we sampled from. In order to generalize to all children, we would need to be convinced that firstborn children are representative of all children, right? Okay, so since they're specifically going for firstborn children, that's what the study should be towards. All right, do these data give convincing evidence that boys are more common than girls in the population? Carry out a significance test to help answer this question. So, part B is going to be our state plan do conclude, right? We want to perform a test of the null hypothesis being that the proportion is equal to 50%, right? So boys are just half of the population, right? Or the firstborn. Versus the alternate where it states that boys are actually, that the proportion of boys is bigger than 50%. Where P is the actual proportion of boys among newborn firstborn children. We will perform a test at the alpha equals 0.05 significance level. So our plan is if conditions are met, we should do a one sample z-test for the population proportion P. So let's go ahead and do our three tests, right? So first one is random. Okay, so of course it was stated in the problem the sample was randomly selected. All right, so now our next one is normal. Okay, the expected number of successes, right? So this is n times our null proportion, which is going to be 25,468 times 50%, right? Or 0.50, which is equal to 12,734, which is of course bigger than or equal to 10. And then n times 1 minus p naught, which of course is the same thing, right? It's going to be 25,468 times 0.50, which is 12,734, which is of course bigger than or equal to 10. All right, so our normal condition is met. Now let's go ahead and check for independence, or our 10% condition, right? So independence. 10% condition. All right. So we have n is equal to 25,468. And of course, big N is all newborn firstborn students. I mean, firstborn children. All right. So we have our inequality. N is less than or equal to a tenth of big N. And that's 25,468 is less than or equal to a tenth of all newborn firstborn children. And we can see that that's going to be true, right? Even if we rewrite it, 254,680 is of course less than or equal to all firstborn newborn children. So all the conditions are met for us to do our z-test. All right, so the sample proportion is, so remember it was 13,173 boys over 25,468 in the sample, right? Which was about 51.7%. So let's find our corresponding statistic. It's going to be z is equal to p hat minus p naught over the square root of p naught times 1 minus p naught all over n, which is equal to 0.5172 minus 0.50 all over the square root of 0.5 times 0.5 all over 25,734. All right, and this gives us 5.48. So, since this is a one-sided statistic, since this is a one-sided test, we have the probability that Z is bigger than or equal to 5.48. So that's basically 0, and I'm going to show you why on the table. Because look, Z 5.48, see, it doesn't even go to a 5, right? It goes to, the highest it goes is 3.49, right? And 3.49 is 0.9998. And if you do 1 minus that, right, it would be basically really, really close to 0. So imagine the probability that Z is bigger than 5.8. It's going to be basically 0. So let's go ahead and write that. So this is basically 0, which is less than our alpha, which is 0.05. And here's a little graph illustrating this, right? So we can see that our probability is less than our significance level. So that means this guy is in our rejection region, right? It's in our rejection region on the graph. So we can conclude, since the p-value is approximately 0, which is less than alpha, which equals 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis. So we can, it appears that boys are more prevalent among newborn, firstborn children than girls, right? Because it does appear that with the amount in the study that we did and everything like that, that this test does signify that there are more boy firstborn newborn than girls.